Hey guys, Devin here with Admiral Off-Road, and today we're going to be installing a steering brace kit from Boostwerks Engineering. Let's get started. Before we get started, let's go ahead and talk about what actually comes in the kit. So we've got our steering box brace, we've got our two nut strips, we've got our new pitman arm nut, our pillow block bearing, and all new hardware. It also comes with some full color instructions, but of course if you're watching this video, you won't need those. Alright, here we are underneath the Jeep, and the first step is going to be to remove anything that's on the bottom of the unibody rail. So if you're running sway bars or anything like that, skid plates, you want to take those off. Luckily I'm not running any sway bars or anything like that, so I can skip that step. But again, you want to take anything off that's going to stop the steering box brace from sitting flat up against the bottom of the unibody rails. Now that we've gotten everything off the bottom of the unibody rails, I've loosely bolted the steering box brace in place just to see where I'm going to have to trim. I know I'm going to have to trim part of this cross member here, the stock cross member, right along the lip there, because it is making a little bit of contact, and that's going to keep it from sitting flat. So I think I'm going to do it with a cutoff wheel, but I'm just going to come in here right where this lip is and just trim it, and then I'm also going to have to hammer flat down on the side where the unibody rail is, because as you can see, this part right here, this lip, is going to make it so that this isn't going to be able to sit flat. So we're going to trim and hammer a little bit and get this steering box brace to be able to sit flat right on the bottom of the unibody rails. The next thing we're going to do is remove the pitman arm nut and replace it with our new nut that has this little extra piece on it that's going to go up inside of the pillow block bearing. You can usually do this with a breaker bar and the right size socket. I don't have the right size socket, so I'm going with a wrench and a hammer. Now that we've got the old pitman arm nut off, we can install our new one and our lock washer. The directions say to torque it down to 180 foot-pounds, but I don't have a socket deep enough to go over this, so I'm just going to use a wrench and yes. 179, 180. The next thing we're going to do is mock up where we're going to need to drill some holes. So we'll install a couple of bolts here loosely, just get everything in place and mark where we need to drill our holes. Alright, now that we've got this kind of in place, we're going to leave it kind of loose, and I'm just going to mark out where I need to drill my holes. This is also a good time to make sure that I've hammered and cut everything correctly so it can fit, and it looks like I don't have any issues there. So I'm just going to take my Sharpie and mark where I need to drill my holes. Looks good there. Into. And while you're doing this, you want to make sure that this is going to be right in the middle of our hole here. That way it's going to perfectly line up with our bushing. Alright, now that I've got everything lined up, I can see that this is right in the center where our bearing is going to go. I'm going to go ahead and center punch these two holes and then drill them out. The next thing we're going to do, now that we've got our holes drilled, we took the brace back off, is I'm going to hit some of these holes with some paint. Any holes that we drilled, and also where we cut here along the stock cross member, I'm just going to hit with a little bit of paint, just to keep it from rusting. So let's go ahead and do that. The next thing we're going to do is install our nut strips inside of the unibody rails. Now on my Jeep this is going to be really easy because with my bumper I can see right into the unibody rails right there, right in the middle of the screen. But if you have a stock bumper you might have to remove it for this. But all that's going to happen is I'm going to take the nut strip, put it right inside the unibody rail, and that is going to be for the front two bolts. The rear two go into the stock sway bar holes, and those are already tapped inside of the unibody, but the front two are going to need this little nut strip. Alright, now we can start our final assembly here, so we can lift everything in place. Gonna leave everything really loose still, so I can move it around and make sure everything lines up, but I am gonna put a little bit of Loctite on all the bolts, just leaving them loose for now. Alright, now we can start doing the fronts here, and with these, you gotta make sure you line up the nut strips on the inside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our pillow block bearing over the pinion nut. I've still got all these bolts loose in case I need to move anything around, but I've got this pretty well centered, and there is just a little bit of an adjustment here if there needs to be. There are little Allen screws on here that help retain it on there. It looks like they're just a little bit tight, so I'm going to back those off and try putting it on there again. Alright, now that we've got this in place, we can go around and torque everything down to spec. Alright, now we can go ahead and torque everything to spec. So these two up here are going to be 60 foot-pounds, as well as the front two bolts holding on the brace to the unibody. These rear four back here are all going to be 37 foot-pounds. Alright, and I'm definitely going to do all of these twice. So I got them torqued down now, but I think they're probably going to loosen up as other ones tighten, so I'm definitely going to check them all again when I'm done. And we'll do the same thing with these here. Again, 60 foot-pounds. Alright, now what we're going to do is tighten down the little Allen screws that hold on to the pillow block bearing onto the shaft there. Hold on. It's back here. There we go. I'm going to double check these real quick, and then the last thing we're going to do is grease up our bearing. Alright, well, we are all done with the install now. We've got it all tightened up. I rechecked all the torque settings. We just greased this thing up, and we should be good to go. The only thing left to do is take it for a test drive. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below. And if you like what you saw here, please like and subscribe. If you're interested in getting yourself one of these steering box braces, go ahead and check out Boostwerks Engineering. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to their website. Definitely give them a look. They've got these steering box braces as well as a ton of other stuff for 4x4s. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.